Hey, yo, Thrivesters. Did I just say hey, yo? I think I did. Hi, here's what's up. This is like, have you ever had to go somewhere and everything conspires so that you can't get to that place? And then you finally get there and you're like, "Whew." This is one of those moments for me. As you know, I've been talking about this podcast episode for over a month. I'm pretty sure it's close to a month. And you are going to hear this podcast episode, I think, one day before National Quitting Day, National Quitters Day. No, actually on National Quitters Day. Nope, one day before, January 17th. So, as we're talking about intentions and resolutions, you're going to hear this the day before the day that the country has declared is the day that everybody abandons these resolutions. And we're going to talk a little bit about why. But my point is, I've been talking about this for over a month. And I really wanted to nail this episode. I wanted to bring my intro and outro back. I wanted to fix the sound. I listened to the More or Less Same episode, which was last week. Thank you to all of you who sent me a note. It means so much to me, either on Instagram, Nancy_Medoff, a text, and email, NancyMedoff at NancyMedoff.com. It means so much to me when you say, hey, that episode was fire. And I had a lot of people, a lot of you reached out, which I'm like, oh, was it really that fire? So I went and listened to it. It was fire. Not only was it fire, I was a little manic in it. I actually looked down at my phone when I was listening to it. I used to listen to my podcast episodes all the time, and I stopped doing that. So I was speaking so fast on this podcast episode that I looked down at my phone, and if you play yours on Apple, there's a little turtle icon and there's a little hare, rabbit icon, and you can slow it down or speed it up, the speed of the podcast episode based on if you want to listen more slowly or if you want to listen more quickly. Sometimes I play mine on like 1.2 or 1.5 if the person's a slow talker. So I look down and I'm like, am I playing this at like 1.7%? Nope, it was regular. I was so excited about this More or Less Same, and I wanted to get this out to you. And I believe that done is good enough. Sheryl Sandberg made that phrase very popular a long time ago. Sometimes done is good enough. So for this episode, again, because the podcast is getting a lot of traction again, kind of ebbs and flows like life. And I want to get our intro back. I want to get the outro back. I want the sexy, editing and all that stuff. So all of this is to say that I didn't do it earlier this week when I wanted to. I couldn't figure things out. Then I got a very bad head cold. And I'm recording this the day before it goes live because I am committed to this. I want you to have this episode. I am like sick as a dog. I don't know how that expression even come to be, but I have a very bad head cold. And I'm here because I really, really think this is so important when everybody's talking about resolutions and intentions and words and more or less same and manifesting. So let's get into it. All right, Thrivesters, let's just get into it. Here's what I want to talk about today. Intention is a buzzword that I believe has been overused. I like it, but it's not a set and forget. It's not, I'm going to set my intention and then forget it. It's not, I'm going to declare this to the universe on January 1st or 2nd, and then wait for the manifestation to happen. Intention, the way I look at it, intention equals awareness, and awareness equals confirmation bias. I'm going to get into a little detail here. There's a lot of new listeners. So for those of you that are new, first of all, welcome to the Hive. Second of all, if you're not following the Thrive Hive weekly buzz, sign yourself up, okay? It comes out once a week, Fridays, usually similar to what we talk about on the podcast, not always. And there's tons of tools, resources, everything. It's free. Sign yourself up. So how did I digress to that point? I don't remember. See, this is what I mean. I'm sick. So, confirmation bias. So confirmation bias, if you don't know what it is, bias is not necessarily bad. Bias is, if you have a brain, you have bias. Bias usually gets a bad rap. It's because when you act on that bias in a bad way, when you have this unconscious bias, people on Rodeo Drive are snobby and stupid. Okay, I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. The women on Rodeo Drive are vapid and not smart, and all they care about is shopping and looking good. I'm just throwing that out there. So that's your bias. If you have a brain, you have bias. It's when you act on that and you snub them or you talk about them or you don't go out of your way to meet them or whatever the case may be. When you act on that bias, then it becomes a problem. Terrible example, the only one I have right now. Confirmation bias, to me, it's usually teed up as negative. I like to look at it as positive. What confirmation bias means is when you have this bias in your head, your brain will subconsciously call in or seek out people, places, data, situations to support that point of view. I think when it comes to change and when it comes to living the life that you want to live, this is the linchpin. The linchpin. I want you to stop for a second and think about someone you admire. It could be a fictional person, not a fictional person. I mean, it could be a celebrity. It could be someone in your life, anyone that you admire, and or that person where you say, "Wow, yeah, that's just, that happened for them. That, that type of success or that type of happiness or that type of life, it's not going to happen for me. Like that, they're lucky, they're chosen. It just happened for them. It did not just happen for them. They were not born into that life. There's privilege. We know that. I'm talking about it's their action. And sometimes their action was conscious and sometimes their action was unconscious. I'm going to give you a few specific examples. And this is very, very tactical. So I talked about the Thrive Global article in the more or less same episode. And again, it's going to be linked in the show notes. And I feel like I've talked about that to death. So I'm going to give you a very, very tactical example. Last year, you may recall if you've been here a while, I set up my year in pillars, and one of the pillars was finances. And getting a handle on our finances was very important to me. When I say getting a handle on it, what I mean is if you share a home or a life with another person, sometimes you merge finances, sometimes you don't, sometimes you have separate accounts, sometimes you have joint accounts, sometimes one person pays the bills, sometimes you separate them. In my life, there is one person responsible for like paying the bills. Okay. Responsible for the physical act of paying the bills. It happens to not be me, which is a good thing. I don't like detail and that would not end well for us. So, I hate it. I hate to sit down and actually, I hate it. If somebody can do that for me, that's great. So it was important to me that me get a handle on our finances and that we have our wills done. And I know that might sound a little morbid to some of you. I can tell you it's not. We have a lot of trips planned coming up. I'm going on safari in a few weeks. I mean, I hope I don't get attacked by a lion, but it's possible. And I don't have a will. Danny and I are going on a dream trip at the end of the year. I hope nothing happens. It's possible. So I want our will, our healthcare proxy, all that stuff. I want it in order. And I've been talking about this for 5 years. No joke, 5 years. We won't get into that. That's another podcast episode. 5 years I've been talking about this. And this year I said in January out loud, okay, this is the year that it's going to be done. It's going to be wrapped up. It's going to be done. It's a priority. It's an intention. Not really a great use of the word intention, but it's important. And I stated it out loud. I wrote it down. I shared it with the person that can help me get there, which is Danny. And all of a sudden, I started seeing articles, different articles about, creative ways to, write your wills, healthcare proxies, all this stuff that I wanted to get a handle on. And that was not a coincidence. I started paying attention subconsciously to the things, the data that could pull it in. I started paying attention to conversations I was having with Danny so that we could then act on what it was that we wanted to do. I didn't realize this at the time. Lo and behold, it's December. I'm wrapping presents on the dining room table. And I look down and there's our will sitting there. And this is not a simple document. This is a multi-page, it's a lot of documents. If you have one, you know this. And it was sitting there for us to sign. Like it was done. And I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, oh, we did that. Like we didn't manifest that. That was not a manifestation. I didn't, sit on my couch and say 3 times, I want to have my finances in order. I want my will together. No, it was a priority. Because I made it a priority, I could share with the people who could help me get it done why it was a priority. I subconsciously pulled in information and data so that I could make better decisions and act on that priority. So that is kind of a roundabout example of intention. I'm going to give you another one. And this one's happening in real time. So this is, as you know, from the More or Less Same episode, there's a project that I'm involved in that I want to spend less time doing. I'm not going to check out. I can still do it. I'll still be productive. I will still contribute. I will still, I'll still make a difference. I am not willing to give it that amount of time anymore. And this was a conversation I had with myself. I didn't say anything out loud. So about a week ago, maybe, I found myself saying to Danny, I just hung up the phone on it, and I had said, yeah, I'm not willing to spend the same amount of time doing this as I had been for the past 18 months. And it just came out of my mouth, So I was declaring it to myself and to the world, again, to those who can help you and those who maybe will try not to help, will try to sabotage you. If you, so that's the confidence. I hung up the phone and I said to him, I am not willing to spend the same amount of time working on this as I have been for the past 18 months. I said it to him. I then later said it to somebody who needed my time on something. I said, I do not have enough time to work on this. You're going to have to find someone else. And I feel like I'm being a little cryptic about it, or it's not really resonating. That's probably because I started talking about this 4 weeks ago and I'm like a squirrel with my thoughts. My point is, when you say it, you will call in people, data, situations to support it. So, yeah, my examples weren't that great, but I'm just going with it. Maybe they were. So this is where the most important part comes up. When we did the more or less same, okay, that was important. This is the foundation, and I hope you did it. Again, if you haven't, pause, go do it and come back. Or make sure you do it after this episode. So the more or less same is it's a massive awareness. And as we said, intention equals awareness equals confirmation bias equals results. So what is it you want more of in your life, right? So when you say it out, let's go with what is it you want less of? I want to spend less time doing this. It's an awareness. And I will now call in other things that can help support this. I will ask for help when I don't want to do something on this particular project. I will outsource something to someone else that I don't want to do on this particular project. I said to my husband, I don't want to spend as much time on this, and he'll be my check and balance. He'll call me out. He'll say, hey, hon, you said you didn't want to spend as much time. If somebody says, hey, why are you slacking? Or why aren't you as involved as you used to be? That's the haters, right? Haters gonna hate. That's me having the confidence to say, I'm not available for this. I no longer will spend that amount of time. It is your declaration. And when you send that declaration out, you are putting the world on notice and you are putting yourself on notice. Here's where it gets really sticky. I will bet you struggled with some of this, because when you think about when you're my age, right? When you're in your 20s, it's very easy to say, here's what I want more of. Here's what I want more of. You're building your life. I want the house. I want the family. I want the career. I want blah, blah, blah. That's easy. Your 30s, still, I think, kind of easy. You want the bigger house or whatever. By the way, do you remember the show 30 something? Like, your 30s are a mess. Sorry, those of you that are in your 30s. Your 20s, you're like, give it a pass for trying to figure it out. Your 40s, you've already figured out. Your 30s is when it's really messy. So do you remember the show 30 something? I just remember it was about chaos. It was like this whiny guy, Michael. And he used to cry every episode. I would be like, yeah, and here comes Michael crying in the episode. Like, they were a mess. So in your 30s, you're struggling, and not necessarily, even financially, but you're like, what is this? Now you have small kids, you have, the work pressure is real, it's difficult. So it's really hard to think about, what do I want? You don't have the time to think about, what do you want? Who do you want to be? You don't have the time. So in your 40s and your 50s and even your 60s, this is when this is when shit gets real. All right. There you go. I said it. You raised the kids, you had the career, you had the white picket fence, you built the business, and sitting there and thinking, what do I really want? What do I want? Not my children, not my partner, not my family, not my boss, not the version of me that I've thought I have been for all of these years. What do I want? That can shake you to your core. First of all, the fact that you don't know. And I'm here to tell you, that's good that you don't know. That's good that you don't know, because you get to decide what you want and you get to take the time to figure it out. And the fact that you don't know means you're giving it thought, means that you haven't pre-prescribed to what you're stopping the cycle. You're like, whoa, let's pause the movie for a minute. What do I want? And not my kids, not my family, not my husband, not my parents. It's my turn. It is my turn. What do I want? And you can have this conversation if you're in your 20s. I know a lot of people, a lot of you that listen to this, you're in your 20s. You can actually, it's probably just as scary. What do I want? That's a hard, hard question. And here's what might be even more shocking. When you figure out what it is you want, and that's the more or less same. So I should tell you how to do this. Sorry, I know I'm all over the place. As I mentioned, I have this head cold. I'm all over the place. There's a thread through your more or less same. There's a thread through it. If you go back and look at it, what's the thread? Mine, unfortunately, it wasn't fresh, and fresh is my word. The thread through mine was human connection. It was less time scrolling. And I mean, like at an airport, how many times and I'm going to be at a lot of airports in the coming weeks. How many times do people just sit there and scroll through their phone? I do it too. Imagine if you put the phone down and actually talk to the person sitting next to you. I have a friend, you know who you are, who talks to strangers on airplanes like no one I've ever seen before. She's just curious. She's interested. She wants to learn more about people. She's a maverick at it. How many of you sit down and put your little noise canceling headphones on and you're like, don't talk to me, or you're on your phone? I do it all the time. I want to do that less. I want to get back to connection. I feel like we as a society are not connected anymore. The world's gone crazy, but that's a whole nother podcast episode. Anyway, so there's that. It was the intentional relationships, being intentional with how I build my relationships. That was important to me. I don't have it in front of me anymore. And there was a couple other things in there that was, more yoga time on the deck. That's connection. That's connecting to myself. So it was more human connection. I'm not going to change my word because I like my word. Maybe I can say it's a fresh approach to connection, but I know when I look back at that more or less same, I'm actually going to go get it. Hold on a sec. Yeah, I'm so glad I just went to go find this. So to me, there's a thread. The thread is, the yoga, the less social media time, the intentional relationships. So one of the threads, the less triggering, less being around the triggered person. This is the person that triggers me, or less. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Less allowing myself to be triggered by the situation. The other thing about the intention, or about more or less same, or about declaring it, or whatever you want to call it, the awareness. Thank you. The more about the awareness is, when you're aware of the behavior that you want to change, or that you want more, when you're aware of this, it's top of mind. And because it's top of mind, you're less likely to fall into old patterns. And I'm going to give you another example. So remember I said there's a situation that's triggering to me. And listen, I'm human. I'm not going to get on this podcast and say it's all sunshine and roses and I'm manifesting abundance from a mountaintop. I'm never going to say that. There's a situation that's triggering. And one of my less was, I want to be less triggered by this situation. And that's on me to figure it out. That's not on the other person. That's on me. So what I found was, I found myself talking to this person in this situation, and I found myself having a lot more grace for the situation, for myself, for the person, um, because it was top of mind. Like, this is triggering to you. You know that you're trying to work on this. It was less triggering. I'm telling y'all, this doesn't just happen. This is intention is awareness equals action or throwing some confirmation bias. Anyway, I forgot where I was again. Oh, the thread. So there's a thread that went through you more or less same. That thread can become your intention or your awareness around that thing, whatever it is. And I don't know how else you can figure it out. And I don't know another way to figure out what you really want. I don't. I coach women all day, every day. And this always, and based on your responses, this resonated. So if you haven't done it, I really encourage you to do it. This is always where they get really, really clear and they look at it because it's not saying, what is my intention for 2027? That's huge. I don't know. What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What do I want same of? Okay, great. What's the thread that pulls it all together? Well, I think that probably is what I intend to do this year. This is what I would like to do this year. So my point is, when you think about what you really want, and it's disappointing to know that you've made it this far in life and perhaps you don't know what it is that you really want. The other thing to think about is, what if you don't want, when you figure it out, it's not what you always thought you wanted? Or it's not what you think you should want? Or it's something that you really want, but you wouldn't dare actually say this out loud because you don't get to do that. That doesn't happen for people like you. It does. And if you went through this exercise and it is what you really want, oh, I'm telling you, if you do it and you say it, again, not on a mountaintop with the wind blowing through your hair. And I'm talking about on a Tuesday afternoon when the world is slapping you right back in the face. You go back to that intention. This is what I want. And you remember that, you will act in a way, and you have that awareness, you will act in a way that supports that intention. And Thrivesters, that's what I'm going to leave you with, okay? Do not set intentions without having the foundation for what you want, or do not get your intention from Instagram, from some of these sexy Instagram reels. Don't do it. It is not, no, don't, stop. What do you want? What do you want? And when you figure that out, that's how you thrive. That's how you thrive, Thrivesters. With that, I'm gonna make my way on out of here. So here's what I'll say. If you want to send me your more or less same, a couple of you did, a few of you did. I love it. I love it. I'm not going to judge your more or less same. This is like free coaching. I'm here to tell you right now, this is free coaching. Send it to me. Take a snapshot. Forward it to me. Email it to me. Take a snapshot. Send it to me on Instagram. Coaching for Q1 is closed, unfortunately, or fortunately, for those who applied and I'm working with. So I only work with 3 people at a time. So it's now closed out until probably the end of March. If you would like to get on a wait list for my Thrive With Me coaching, it's about 12 weeks. Sometimes I can be a little flexible on that. This is the type of stuff we do. I mean, we also do career coaching and the power positioning statement, and we'll do whatever tactical career thing you want to do. If you don't want to do that and you want to focus on how to thrive, this is it. This is it. I'm going to create a link. I'm going to throw it in the show notes. Just get on the wait list and we'll hop on a call and we'll talk about it. The last thing any coach wants is to have a coaching engagement with somebody that doesn't work. Nobody feels good about that. So we'll hop on a call and I'll talk to you about, what are your goals? Do I think I can help you get there? What is it that you want? And if you don't know what you want, that's okay. That's why you're applying. So that's going to be in the show notes. Let's talk. Until then, peace out, Thrivesters. Now go out there and thrive like you mean it.